quarterback, that unit that we had from 80 to 85, was the great transition between. They were great tacklers, caused great fumbles, interceptions, and they did a lot more They had a lot more sacks than I thought they would have. You know, we had. I remember as a kid the linemen that we had: Charles Martin, Alfonso Carrick, Ezra Johnson. You know, I mean, we had some good linemen in there that they had good seasons, but they weren't as a unit, the pass rushing unit, right? And those linebackers were kind of a glue for that whole unit.
Yeah, and I think that kind of sums up the Packers' defense from that period. There was lots of inconsistency. There were guys that could put up a fantastic game. I mentioned Alfonso Carricker. He had 4 sacks in a game against Tampa Bay in the snow in '85, and you know, Ezra Johnson, fantastic pass rusher, particularly in the 4-3 though. So when they went to the 3-4, it made it a lot more difficult for Ezra Johnson. You know, he had those unofficially the 21.5 or 20.5 sacks in '78. You know, you mentioned some other names, Charles Martin and those guys who were just, any one of those guys could have a really good game, but they didn't do it. They didn't do it often enough. And you're absolutely right. That linebacking core, and even beyond Mike Douglas's days, when Brian Noble came in '85 and Johnny Holland came in, another solid. You know, you had Anderson still playing, so you had Anderson, Brian Noble, and Johnny Holland in the middle, and Timmy Harris on the right outside. What another excellent core of linebackers. So over the years, you know, certainly through the '80s period, no matter how bad the team was, that linebacking core actually was pretty damn good all the way through that period.
Yeah. Just so much energy out of Douglas. I mean, was he the spiritual leader of that defense? I mean, what was his character in that team? You know, I mean,
sorry. I mean, he really was. I mean, he was, you know, all the way back to his days in San Diego State. So let's just start there. You know, in his junior year at San Diego State, you know, he had 21 sacks in 11 games, which is still a school record. And he held the San Diego State career record for sacks until beaten by KGB, of all people. And San Diego State, just as a side, has been quite good for the Packers. So Douglas, KGB, Willie Buchanan, Rich Moran, who we mentioned, you know, last week, Don Horn, the first round pick from quarterback from the late '60s. So for a school that you wouldn't immediately think of, it's been good for the Packers. But yeah, absolutely. You know, Douglas was that vocal leader and led by example as well. You know, because he was all over the field. You know, he was always either in on the tackle, and certainly was in on a lot of tackles, as we'll get to. You know, 100 plus for many years. But he was always in on the tackle. He was always around the football. He was making plays, and it felt for a period there that if Mike Douglas didn't make the big play, nobody made the big play. But he certainly led by example. You know, and he wasn't a guy to back down. You know, there's a number of cases where he got into locker room fights with coaches, you know, and got into situations even with Bart Starr that you know, he ended up walking out of team meetings and stuff like that. So, you know, he was certainly a guy that I think other players looked up to. And I would imagine, I don't know, but you know, in today's team, you would kind of liken him to perhaps to say as a Darius Smith, that kind of personality. But yeah, just there's so many words, adjectives that you could use to describe Mike Douglas, and they're probably all true. You know, athletic, speed, everything. But I think Eric mentioned energy, 100% all the time. That's the player that he was, but he delivered. It wasn't just energy and stuff with no end result. He delivered, you know, many big plays over that 7, 8, 9 year career.